Hey guys, so in this video I want to talk about ETFs and how they can help you be used specifically for a long-term investing strategy. So ETFs, unlike picking individual stocks, provides diversification into buying or tracking as closely as possible to, for example, the ASX 300, which is, in other words, buying like a basket of stocks. So long term, this is a great way to capture market performance while not being exposed specifically to individual stocks that might have profit downgrades. They might have, negative reports, or the company might go bankrupt, for example. And that's obviously going to affect your investment quite heavily. Whereas if you've got investments in something like an ETF, having that diversification, not being invested into one single stock. From the research I've done, a lot of you guys fall into the categories of being male and between the ages of 21 and 34. Based on this, you guys take home roughly around $3,800 on average. Obviously some more, some less, but for the most part your leftover income for investing would be, I'd say, between $500 and $1,000 a month. And based on those figures, why it's really important when you're considering something like an ETF is, obviously if you buy too frequently, a lot of those trades will incur brokerage fees, which will actually eat into your profits. So you want to invest, if you're buying frequently, you want to buy from, for example, South Wealth, which has a brokerage fee of only $10 compared to some of the banks which charge, anywhere up to $20 per trade. So even with this said, you want to invest roughly around $2,500 or $3,000 at a time. So that way brokerage is going to be less than 0.5% of the actual total shares that you're purchasing at that time. So with this said, investing in ETFs such as Vanguard, ticker symbol for example VGS or VAS, the difference between them is one gives you exposure to the largest stocks internationally, including US stocks, so Amazon, Facebook, Google, and JP Morgan banks, Pepsi, Visa, some of the biggest companies in the world. Whereas VAS, for example, only gives you exposure to the top 300 companies within Australia, while still being blue chip companies. That still gives you risk potentially. For example, if the Australian market slows down, or for example, if there's a housing market recession, which has like a negative impact on the wider Australian economic impact. So with this said, if you fall into the category where you want to invest in an index and you don't want to do all the research and constantly monitor how a company is performing, you could look at buying stocks once every 4 or 5 months and look at buying ETFs such as VAS, VAS, VGS or VDHG, which basically gives you exposure to a bunch of stocks, and you can buy it at 4 or 5 month intervals.